Welcome to episode 36 of Stories from the Red Couch. I'm Sue Pearce, and today I'm interviewing my sister, Robyn Cook. Hi, Robyn.
Hi, Sue. We just had to, sorry, we were laughing because Lucy was just attacking Sue's scarf.
Very beautiful scarf.
I know, and she's not allowed to do that.
No,
so sorry about that.
That's all right.
She's naughty.
Add to the felting effect.
Yes.
Welcome to the other side of the couch.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's really quite, I mean, it's a different perspective, obviously, because I'm looking at different lights and everyone gets to see a different side of my face. You don't usually get to see that side.
That's right. It's a nice side.
It's a nice side.
How this came about was we were talking about how popular Robyn's series is. She's got such a huge following. And it occurred to me that who knows Robyn Cook? I do, but I think people would be interested to hear a little bit about Robyn's story and how it evolved that she came to have her very own TV series. And so that's why I'm here doing this, and that's why she's there doing that. So let's go back a little bit, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
We'll keep it nice.
Yes, we're not quite up to the stories that are best told over dinner and a glass of wine.
That's right. We're not in therapy either.
We're not in therapy.
So, Robbie, you have written your own book.
I did.
You actually, and John,
Yep.
Actually produced completely and self-published a book. Can you
The
tell us
Holiday
about
Lifestyle Cookbook. Yes, we decided we'd been living at Mount Nebo, which is a little mountain community just outside of Brisbane, and we'd been there for about 9 years. We built this amazing house. It was fantastic and had an amazing life there.
And you built it with another family?
We built it with another family. We lived a communal life.
You did, yeah.
It was all very exciting and very much in the bush. That's the stories best told over dinner and wine.
That's right.
And we've just felt we came to a point where it was ready to go. We were ready to go. We were ready to go to the beach, and we just wanted to live at the ocean for a while.
I can understand that.
Yeah. And so part of that leaving process involved writing this book, and the book came about because I wanted to take Lewis, who was only 2 at the time, to Woodford Folk Festival for the first time, and I wanted to cook for him there. And I'm an okay cook, but I wanted a recipe book that could help me in a camping situation. And the only things I could find were books that were about freeze-dried food where you're hiking for 10 days or out in the bush with a kangaroo turning over a spit, that kind of thing.
Or tins of baked beans or something.
Tins of baked beans. And so I thought, I think I'll just write one myself. How hard can it be? I wanted a Woman's Weekly style cookbook. I think I'll just write one. And of course, John is a photographer who's behind the scenes every week. Yep. He could easily provide the photos. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and so you lived in a caravan right on the beach at Cotton Tree?
Cotton Tree, yeah. It was called Pincushion Caravan Park at that point.
Yeah.
And we were sites 16 and 17 because, we were fairly affluent. We needed 2 sites. It was fantastic.
And what happened at the end of... So you went through the process of photographing, cooking. I was actually a test cooker.
Yes.
And so it was a really exciting time when the book was finally produced and printed.
I know, but you know what? I kind of felt like that was the job, that researching and writing and we did a bit of travel and the photography and so forth, that was the big task. And when it was printed and we had it in our hands... I kind of collapsed in not quite a screaming heap, but maybe an exhausted heap in the caravan thinking, oh, thank God for that, the job's done. And then it dawned on me that I had to sell it. We now had, we fell into the trap for the young player of printing way too many copies, and suddenly I had to sell them all. So how on earth? And I was quite shy, funnily enough.
It's hard to believe.
I know. And I had to turn around and sell them.
Yeah. Yeah, it can't be easy because you're selling yourself, aren't you? And you're selling your product to you want people to buy it.
I know.
And I think plenty of people did. Plenty of
shops we sold over 10,000 copies. So at the time in Australia, a bestseller was selling 5,000 copies.
Okay.
So we were a bestseller twice over.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was such an interesting process.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest things I learnt from that was separating myself from my product, so that if someone said, no, I don't want the book, I didn't feel like, no, they didn't want me.
Yeah,
So I stopped it being about me, and it was about the book.
Okay.
And if they didn't want it, then it just wasn't right for them at that time, and that's okay. It's okay to do that.
Can we get a link of the book put up on this
We
later
don't-
on?
That book was before the internet. Well, it wasn't quite before the internet, but it was a hell of a
But we
long
can put a
time ago.
picture up.
Oh,
of
we
it,
can put
yeah.
a picture up. Yes.
Because I'm sure people will be interested to have a look at
see
at
it.
least the cover and flick. So you got through that,
Yes.
and then you moved through that period, and then you came here to this.
Yeah, we came to
house?
Palmwoods
Yep.
after our year at the beach, and then, 2 years at the beach actually. And then we felt that we wanted to, find something with a bit of land, and we had 10 tons of timber or something that you've been here decluttering with Mary Lou over the last little while. We're not going to go to the timber. It's enough that we've carried everything else with us. And so we wanted a bit of land, and we came to Palmwoods. Palmwoods is a beautiful little town.
It is.
We really love it here. And Lewis went to school. Matt came along. Our lives changed again.
Yes.
And I started being interested in gardening. Well, developing my interest in gardening at the school.
At the local primary school where Lewis was, and you became involved in garden teaching, or developing the garden, and you'd run workshops for the families to come.
I met up with 3 other mums, 3 other women there, and we all had younger children, so we all loved gardening, and we felt really strongly about children having an opportunity to eat well, and we recognised that a lot of children didn't have an opportunity to eat well, and as a result of that in their homes, they were reluctant to try food. So we did a lot of cooking, and we grew a lot of food. And I'm just going to, excuse me, that rotten cat, she's just scratching the couch, the red couch. Anyway, so we developed the garden at Chevalum, and we ran workshops, and we had a permaculture group, and we had lots of adults. It was a really exciting time.
And you did a really clever thing, didn't you, with working bees?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that was ingenious.
Well, what's the difference between a working bee and a workshop?
You tell me.
The difference is that a working bee, only 3 people turn up, and they're the same 3 people every single time. And a workshop, people come and pay to do the work. Because there's an expectation that they will be taught something.
That's right.
So we only ever ran workshops. We didn't run working bees.
I thought that was really clever.
It worked every time. Yeah, people invest in that. And it was personally exciting, because I found my tribe. I found a tribe of people with whom I could socialise and learn, and we shared our kids, and it was
lovely.
Wonderful.
Very nurturing.
Oh, it was.
And it's important, I think, for parents of young kids to find a way that they can fit in and move through those years together and then beyond. So that actually led you into a completely different type of work field, where you actually went working for a private organisation.
We had been self-employed forever. And then with the self-publishing and so forth. And then I got to the point, it's actually really hard work to be self-employed. And I've been sitting here for the last few months talking predominantly with women who are self-employed. And the reason why I've been doing that is because it's really hard to be self-employed, to be a sole trader or in a partnership, and your life is your work. And how do we continually do that? Well, I got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't working anymore for me. So I found a job at Nutritech Solutions, and that was a revelation. It completely changed my life again. And each time I do these things, it changes my life. That's right. I don't know how many times my life's been changed.
That's what change is, isn't it? That's
it
what
is.
It's good for.
So Nutritech was brilliant, and it gave a lot of scientific grounding to my gardening work. That's what I really loved about it. Okay. So I loved gardening, but here was the science behind why things worked or didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you did enjoy that for the time you were there. And
I was there for 4 years and
yeah,
I loved it.
I remember you.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
I used to pinch myself
Yes.
driving home
Yes.
in the evening because I'd had a great day, I'd
Yeah.
met some fabulous people and I got paid.
And you had birthday cakes.
Oh, and we did cakes and oh yeah.
That's
it
one
was,
of the nice
it was
things
brilliant.
about working in
That's
with
right.
a group of people.
Yeah, it was
So what
fabulous.
happened? So you were, with your involvement at the school, you continued that on a different level, on a part-time level, or on a more.
Well, we had, the four of us had worked hard in that garden and we'd really developed something very
Yeah.
beautiful. And the time came where we all needed to go and get work. Our
Yeah.
children were growing up.
Yeah.
I got the job with Nutritech and the other three were also moving off. And I felt pained that we were leaving the garden.
Yeah.
We'd put so much effort and love into it. And at the same time that we were developing the garden at Chevelham, Stephanie Alexander was developing Collingwood College and Nuttawading, and we were watching that. So she started the Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden Foundation. We were busy drooling
Yes.
over what she was achieving.
How can we have some of that?
It was fantastic. Such a good job. And she'd actually spread it quite through Victoria by that time. And then in 2008, the federal government offered grants nationally for schools to join the Kitchen Garden Foundation. And so I approached our principal at the time, Lynn Winch, and asked if we could do that. And she said yes, and we...
And you put the grant together.
I put the grant together.
That's a big thing to do when you're not experienced in that area, isn't it? That's a really big
yeah,
deal.
it was. But I think the foundation were interested in seeing schools that had been working in that field for some time. And they were okay with it being a little bit rough around the edges because the application was.
Yeah.
And I made some of it up
Yes.
and they still gave it to us.
Yes.
It all turned out all right in the end.
Thankfully.
And it was a little joke in the office
Yeah.
for a while. What that gave the school was me as the garden teacher for 1 day a week. It was a paid role.
Yep.
And we also got a kitchen teacher out of that 1 day a week. And so the children started formal lessons
Yeah.
in the garden and the kitchen.
So you were really an integral part of that happening. But
Absolutely.
that also led you to another life change.
Yes,
And you had another dream job.
I know.
With Stephanie Alexander Foundation. Tell us about how that all came about.
So there had been, each state had a project officer, state project officer. And the Queensland project officer job was something that I had coveted for a couple of years.
Yes.
So it came up, it was available, and I hummed and hawed. Should I apply? Won't I apply? Am I ready for it? No, I don't think I am. I can't do it. And there were, I think it was 3 times that job came up and I didn't apply.
Ah, okay.
Because I just didn't feel like I had what it was going to take to do the job.
Yeah.
And then I became friendly with the project officer who was doing the role, my good friend Mel, and she alerted me to the fact that the Queensland government were about to offer grants to Queensland schools, 25 Queensland schools, and with that was a project officer role. That was it. I had to have that job. So I approached the CEO at the time and said, you know, I've heard that there's a job on offer. And she said, oh, well, we might base it on, you know, in Cairns or Brisbane or somewhere. But as it turned out, they based it on the Sunshine Coast, the role, and I got the job.
And
it
what
was
did,
incredible.
Oh no, it was such an exciting, what a huge achievement that
So
was.
exciting.
What did you have to do? What did that, were these, did you have to learn from the ground up or did you get training?
Look,
How did that
The
happen?
foundation is it's an astonishing organisation and they train their staff just incredibly well. It was a gift. I looked after, in the end, I was there for 4 years. In the end, I looked after 117 primary schools in Queensland.
Just primary schools, not high schools?
Just primary schools at that stage, and was also on the national training team. So I travelled extensively all around Australia, and didn't get to go to Tasmania, but that's okay. And worked with over 600 teachers and school principals and parents,
Okay.
training them how to develop the kitchen garden program
Okay, so you
in their school.
You didn't teach the children, you trained the
Trained
people
the adults.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so that would have been very satisfying,
Oh,
some challenges.
It was just incredibly
yeah.
satisfying.
Especially from the parents' point of view, I suppose, because like the teachers are teachers, but to have parents involved who have got their other lives as well.
Yeah. Well, I was really nervous actually,
Yeah.
because at first we were training parents and kitchen and garden specialists, but not teachers. And then we were starting to train teachers, and it was interesting because I left school at grade 10.
Yeah.
I have no tertiary qualifications. I feel, I've done a lot of stuff.
Yes.
But there was some level of intimidation. They weren't intimidating me. I was being intimidated by the idea of teaching teachers. Oh, how on earth am I going to do that? I had no idea how I would
felt
teach.
a little bit different to
I
a
did.
teaching style to using, but you were using your own organic style, weren't
I
you?
know, but I wondered how they would respond to someone who had no qualifications,
Yes.
no degree
Yes.
in anything,
Yes.
teaching them. And what I discovered, and there's been quite a bit of debate in the last few days in the media about teachers,
Yes,
and
that's
let's
right.
make them work 38 hours a week and 4 weeks holiday. Well, I tell you what, I had no idea about teachers in that way until I started that job. And what I discovered is that most of the country schools that I came across, it's the principal and the teachers that financially support it.
Yes.
All of the extras, they pay out of their own pocket regularly
It's appalling, isn't it?
to support their children's learning. And they have a genuine interest in their kids to the point where they go to bed at night thinking about how they're going to help so-and-so to do something. Now, they don't get paid enough to do that.
No.
Anyway, that's another whole story.
Yes.
But
Maybe you should have a school teacher on here sometime.
yeah, I just, I feel quite strongly that
yeah.
they are underrated, underpaid and undervalued.
So that the job took you away from home quite a lot,
Yes.
and you had
That was a bit dodgy sometimes.
Yeah, and so that caused a few. But any working
I
parent can identify with that.
it's
And
tough.
so the sacrifices you do make, and they're usually your own, because the families do actually get along okay, but they're personal sacrifices,
Yeah,
things you
it
miss
was
out
hard.
on. But you loved it so much that it wasn't a problem. So what happened in the end with that? It was
Well, it was a contract.
funding.
Yeah,
yes,
so it was a
a
contract.
funding issue.
Most of us are on contracts these
That's right.
days. Contract finished. The Liberal government came into power, and as is often the case, social programs like that are unfunded.
Yeah.
So our training team was disbanded, and that was it.
Yep.
So I knew that it was coming, and
Yes.
this was such an interesting thing because on an intellectual level, I was absolutely prepared. Contract comes to an end, that's fine. It was only ever a contract.
Yes, yeah.
And so they had told me in the kindest and most supportive way. They really went above and beyond at that time. And then it finished. And what I didn't understand and didn't appreciate was how enmeshed I had become with my job and how closely I identified with it. So I would say Robyn Cook, project officer or training officer, Kitchen Garden Foundation.
Yes.
It became one sentence. And in going through that, it gave me a tremendous insight into how people feel at the end of a long career. And I remember years ago there was suddenly a conversation around men particularly who had been in the same job for their whole lives.
Yep.
And then they retired
Yep.
or they were retrenched.
Yes.
And I had no idea, and there was that conversation
Quite
about
traumatic, yeah.
It was so traumatic
Can
for
be,
them.
yeah.
I had no understanding of that, and suddenly I had an understanding of that. Yeah. So it was a challenging time. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
And how did you get through that? What did you do?
Oh, I had a gap year.
What did you do in your gap year?
I just took the year off.
What did you do?
Oh, I swanned about a bit. I had a full abdominal hysterectomy.
You did,
so that's
yes.
like too much information, but you're just going to have to wear that. And there was that recovery time, and then after that, I started to think about, well, what am I going to do now? I have to work.
Yes.
What will I do? And I applied for maybe 6 jobs, all jobs that I could easily do. My skills from the Kitchen Garden Foundation were easily transferable. But, you know, I talked them out of employing me. I didn't work that out until the last job. But I actually talked them out of employing me.
Why do you think?
Because
You didn't want that job, or you didn't think you could do it? Or
oh no, I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
I guess I'd done so much travel with the Kitchen Garden Foundation that it was so consuming
Yes.
that over the year that I had off, I started to value the flexibility around not working.
Yes.
I have elderly parents-in-law who live 2 doors down the road.
Yes.
And they needed me. They
Yes.
needed my support, so I needed to do that. I still have offspring at home, so there's things to do with that. So I needed to design a job, and you know, maybe they weren't going to give me the jobs anyway. Maybe I didn't talk them out of the jobs, and I was just way too old. Because I think.
Do you think that's a thing?
I do. I think once you get over 50,
Yeah.
and certainly over, you know, around
Yeah.
55.
Yeah.
You're way at the other spectrum of
Yeah, I think
attractive
that's right.
employee.
I think the
aren't you?
types of work available changes once you get older. So
Yeah.
you've recreated other streams, haven't you?
Yeah.
So
So I started the kitchen garden teacher,
That's
kitchen
right,
garden
yes.
teacher,
Yep.
and so I've been working with the council and some schools and the planting festival and
Yeah.
various places in teaching kids and adults around food.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a business course just to give myself an opportunity to get my head together around what it was that it might look like and how to go about doing it.
Yep.
And I met a whole bunch of other people. Again, it's so easy just to sit back at home and not do anything and not engage.
Mm.
But for me, I feel that in pushing myself out into the community again and playing around in areas that I find interesting, something develops.
Yeah.
Something happens.
And it has, because now, apart from this fabulous little thing that you do,
Yep.
It's not little, it's a
No.
massive thing. So you've got an involvement in Nambour,
Yes.
and that has come about because it's something you love, it's something you believe in, and it's something that you could probably take forward.
Yeah. So that is when I did the business development, it's a Cert 3, so I now have a post high school qualification. It's hilarious, isn't it?
Good
Anyway.
to hear. Yeah.
I did the Cert 3 and it was at the old AMBO, the old ambulance station in Nambour. And I met a whole bunch of people, a bunch of women particularly, all doing similar things to me. I've spoken with a number of them on the couch.
Yes.
We became friends, and it was another opportunity for me to grow and to develop. And now I'm on the board of the old AMBO.
Yeah.
And
What is that? What happens there?
the old AMBO, it's a great, it's a social enterprise organisation that works with, we like to say grunge entrepreneurs.
Is that a thing? Is that
Well, it is
grunge
now
entrepreneur?
because we're
You've
a bit
just made it,
grungy.
yeah,
We're a bit grungy.
Yeah.
So the building's a bit, it's old, it's a bit run down, it's
got character.
it
and
has
it's-
got character.
and it's got scars. It's
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
life.
yeah. It's
yeah.
had a life, and so have we.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that we're not only about tech startups. So often when we think about entrepreneurs,
Yes.
we think about tech startups. But an entrepreneur could be someone who starts a lawn mowing business.
Yes.
Or it could be, so what I'm working with now is one aspect of the AMBO, which is AMBO Media Makers. And that's something that I'm pretty excited about at the moment. And that AMBO Media Makers is a space where people can come and use hardware and software to live stream. Computer. Yeah, so having said that, it's not all about tech.
Yeah.
This is about tech,
Yeah.
but this is about broadcasting.
Okay.
So
So you've got
creating
equipment there
original.
that they can use.
We will have. That's the plan.
Oh.
And at the moment, we're working with a group of homeschool
Yep.
teenagers around that.
Good, interesting. And tell us about how this happened. What happened? How is it that we're sitting on this red couch with amazing people running it, amazing equipment? How did this come about?
I think,
And why?
Well, I think first of all, you'd given us this couch because you left home, you ran away
Yes.
with your husband
Yes.
and went travelling.
Yes.
And we acquired this red
You did.
couch from you. And that led to a conversation of having too much stuff.
Yes.
And we thought, well, what do you do with all of this stuff? And here we've got some glasses that belonged to my mother-in-law and a jug that was our mother's
yeah.
and a little thing there that, I don't know, I think that was mum's as well, yeah. So we've got all of this stuff. What do you do with it? Well, let's bring it out and talk about it. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And then, so we played around with that. But I think probably the main, there's three things. There was that. The other thing is that Matt wanted to...
And Matt's number 2 son.
Yeah, Matt is number 2 son, and at the time he was 14, and he really, really wanted to do live broadcasting and making a podcast. So he was so keen to do that. And I thought, oh, we can do that? Yeah, let's do that. And then he can have the experience of doing it week after week after week, really building and honing those skills around setting up the cameras and the lights and the audio and the video and all of those sorts of things and how that business works. And I also felt the urge to talk to other women who were in my situation of finding themselves unemployed and maybe unemployable at over 50.
Yep.
They've lived a life, they've done a whole bunch of stuff, and for whatever reason they find themselves needing to recreate themselves. And how do you do that? And I became really interested in that point between finishing one part of their lives and starting another. And where was that and how they were going to do that. And I felt also that we are consumed in this society and so focused on catastrophe or celebrity that there's very little room for an average voice.
Do you know what? That's the thing I find with watching the episodes. I have to confess I haven't watched last week's because I've just been a little bit busy. What's really nice about it is that you are just speaking with a general person, just a person, warts and all, and they bring their stories. Well, they bring their stories to life because you help them do that. But I think it gives other people who are watching the opportunity to see that this is just how normal life is. And I really like that. It's like, I guess, reading a magazine full of people that you're familiar with or concepts that you're familiar with without advertising and stuff. So I think it's a brilliant, and it's so professional. People out there should see what goes on here. It's not this isn't the little 2-bob shop here. It's really something else, and it's good to see. It's good to see it happening. I have to talk to you about the drink.
Yes.
It's delicious.
It is delicious.
But there's just one ingredient not in there. And but we'll rectify that as soon as we can. So tell us about this. Tell us about what we're drinking.
Well, I grow rosellas.
Yep.
Turmeric, ginger, limes. A whole bunch of stuff, really. But there's some basics.
Yep.
And I really love making a cordial with that.
It's very nice.
So this is rosella, turmeric and ginger cordial. There's no sugar at all. There's no sweetener at all.
Yeah.
I don't think you need it.
Oh no, I like it. It's got, but
and soda water.
Oh yeah, of course.
Needs a bit of gin though.
It needs gin.
It needs gin.
What's missing is a bit of Hendrix or something in there.
Would be perfect.
Really perfect.
Yeah.
Look, this has been really fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun. Robyn and I was her very first guest, and because we were staying at Peregian at the time again, and I'd just bought this little homemaker's book from 1950 or something.
That actually only cost $5.
Yeah.
Not 15.
No, and I tried to pass it off as spending $15. A lot of money on it. So we had a lot of fun. I was there and she was here, and we had a lot of fun chatting, and it was very, very flippant and whimsical. And you've come a long way since those days.
Thank you.
And it's been a great pleasure to see it happen. What do you think will happen next for you? Do you have any visions of?
Oh, I've got visions.
Yeah.
I always have visions. I wake up in the morning with visions.
Yeah.
It's quite crowded in there. There is a plan, so
Yeah.
people will see that unfold.
Yep.
And we will just continue developing this and throwing out some products. I think that's part of the deal of trying something on.
Okay.
Is to then see what happens from
Yeah.
that.
What kind of role models or mentors, or what kind of people have helped you or have influenced you in some of your decision making or in gaining confidence? What kind of people you know or don't know that you've kind of looked at?
Well, I've got a range of mentors. I've certainly got the Michael and Ludmilla Donovan, who ran the Edgeware course that I did. Huge mentors for me. They're fantastic. And what I really love about them is they have confidence in me.
Yes.
So I might go along and say, oh, I've got this great idea. And they'll say, fabulous.
Yeah. And?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I have to go, oh, okay, I better develop it a little bit more before I go back. So what I've learnt there is that initial rush of excitement is maybe like a childlike thing. And now I just go, and maybe that's a bit embarrassing to say that I still have childlike impulses at 55, but I think we do.
We all still think we're
we're
that age.
I think we do. But so what I've come through with that is, here are the tools, develop it, trial it, bash it around a bit, see if it works.
Very good.
Move forward with it.
Excellent. I think we've run out of time.
I think we have.
I think we could just
taken
sit
up.
here and talk for hours.
We might turn the lights off and get some gin and then just continue.
I could have drive home. I think you pointed out that if we kept chatting, people would lose interest.
That's right. He's turned the
and
lights
John's
off.
turning and
All
we'll
right.
get swept out
So-
with the dumpers.
So shall I finish off? Or will you?
No,
what
I'm
have
going
you
to
got to
finish
say?
it. This is
Okay.
my show.
Okay.
John told me I can do anything
and-
I like.
yeah,
And
okay.
Maddie. But thanks for watching. I've had a lot of fun. Have you had a lot of fun?
I have.
You look great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clothes.
Thanks for watching. Hope you can watch again next week. Robyn does have a Facebook page, Stories from the Red Couch. Also, there is an Instagram account that every now and again she will like something I've posted, but very rarely post anything.
I need
herself.
some brushing up on my social media skills.
So head over to the Facebook page, follow along. It's a great journey that Robyn's on. She is inspirational herself, I'll say that.
Thank you. And if you're in the local area, if you live on the Sunshine Coast and you'd like to come on, send me a
Yeah.
message.
Or even if you don't live on the coast, you can come up.
Yeah,
They've
absolutely.
got a spare bed downstairs. Can
We
I sleep
have.
on the bed?
Yeah. And a camper trailer.
And a camper trailer. But yeah, look, seriously, thanks for following. It's been a blast. Thank you very much. Give me
Thank
a
you,
hug.
Susie. Just clean my body.
Well, whatever.
No, she's right in there.
They're kind of appropriate.
Keeping everything nice and clean.